In the world of boxing, confidence can be a weapon just as dangerous as fists. In the lead-up to July 25, 2023, at the Ariake Arena in Tokyo, one fighter displayed more than his fair share of bravado. Philadelphia native Stephen "Coolboy" Steph Fulton believed he had the formula to dismantle the legend that is Naoya Inoue. Cocky, bold, and undeterred, Fulton made comments that rippled through the fight world. "I see me wiping him out. Clean. Clean. He's too small for me. He's too short. He needs to get his weight up." The swagger in his tone was unmistakable. He dismissed the excitement surrounding Inoue as hype built more on nationality than ability. "I feel like the hype is around him because he's a Japanese person doing these things," he claimed. "That's all. I feel like the hype is around because of that." Fulton wasn't merely aiming to win. He believed he was destined to expose Inoue. But when you're dealing with Naoya Inoue, hype quickly becomes reality. By the time the fight rolled around, Inoue was already a wrecking force across the bantamweight division. Having conquered that field with calculated brutality, he moved up in weight to super bantamweight. But he didn't take a slow climb. Instead, Inoue did what few dare. He went straight for the best. He challenged the undefeated unified super bantamweight world champion. That champion, of course, was Stephen Fulton. For the first time in his career, Inoue entered the ring as the underdog, at least in the eyes of Western pundits. Fulton was the bigger man, a natural super bantamweight. He was taller, longer, and confident in his ability to impose his will through size and skill. Many fans and experts alike believed Inoue had finally bitten off more than he could chew. "Scooter's going to be too much for Inoue," some said. "He's too big. He's going to surprise him. He's got a little power too. I think he's going to stop him late or take it by decision." Fulton, they believed, had the technical savvy to counter Inoue's speed and the strength to wear him down. Skills pay the bills, and Fulton's got the skills and size to make it happen. In the days leading up to the showdown, the atmosphere intensified. At the final face-off, Fulton stared directly into Inoue's eyes, muttering words with venom. He made it personal, treating it like a mission. He looked like a man who genuinely believed in his superiority. "He's not better than me," Fulton asserted. "I believe the same thing that happened to Erie will happen to him." His words dripped with conviction. The American wasn't just trash-talking. He had convinced himself that Inoue's dominance was a mirage, a media-driven illusion ready to be shattered. The bell rang in Tokyo, and the showdown began. Fulton came forward, attempting to assert himself from the onset. He was determined not to be bullied or outclassed, and he held his ground. But Inoue, composed and menacing, wasted no time. His footwork was pristine, his timing impeccable, and he began testing Fulton's guard. Early exchanges showed that this was going to be more than a physical bout. It was going to be a chess match. Fulton tried to force Inoue back, pushing the pace and using his size, but what he didn't realize was that the monster from Japan had already begun downloading his patterns. Inoue's ring IQ is the kind of thing that defies logic. He sees punches before they're thrown. His ability to create openings while closing distance is surgical. As the rounds progressed, Fulton's strategy started to unravel. Every time he attacked, Inoue had a response. It wasn't just power, though. Inoue's punches carry the kind of force that can warp game plans. It was the intelligence behind them. Fulton began eating counter shots with regularity. Where he thought he'd have advantages in timing and space, Inoue proved him wrong. The monster controlled the ring like a puppet master, dictating when exchanges occurred and always landing the cleaner, sharper shots. As the fight went on, Fulton's energy began to dip. He moved more, trying to create distance, but it only opened the door for Inoue to walk him down. The shots began to land with more frequency and ferocity. Inoue was now in his rhythm, delivering combinations with speed and precision. Fulton's jab was no longer finding the mark. His confidence, so vibrant in pre-fight interviews, started to fade as he realized that Inoue's power wasn't the only threat. His mind was equally lethal. In the fifth round, the disparity between the two fighters became painfully evident. Fulton tried to stay on the outside, relying on movement and occasional pot shots, but Inoue wouldn't allow it. He cut the ring off like a predator, forcing exchanges and making every second a nightmare. For Fulton, by this point the Japanese sensation had taken control of the tempo. He was no longer just reacting, he was dictating every moment. The right hands began to crash through Fulton's defense with chilling accuracy. Like a seasoned painter working a canvas, Inoue was blending art and violence. Then came the moment that turned the fight into a masterpiece of destruction. In the later rounds, as Fulton tried to retreat, Inoue unleashed a flurry of devastating punches. With every exchange, Fulton looked more unsure. He was hurt, but more than that, he was overwhelmed. Inoue chased him down, applying clinical pressure. Fulton had never been dropped in his professional career, but that changed when Inoue delivered a surgical right hand that dropped him to the canvas. It wasn't just power, it was a precision shot that Fulton never saw coming. To his credit, Fulton rose from the knockdown, dazed but defiant. He tried to convince the referee he was ready to continue. But Inoue, ever the executioner, smelled blood. He wasted no time. He pinned Fulton to the ropes and unleashed a barrage that forced the referee's hand. The fight was waved off and the result was undeniable. Naoya Inoue had dismantled the best fighter in the division and done it with clinical ease. Fulton, humbled and beaten, later admitted what many had failed to recognize. His ring IQ was good, he confessed. He's smarter than I thought. It was a stark contrast to the fighter who had scoffed at Inoue's reputation just days earlier. Inoue hadn't just beaten Fulton, he had outthought and outclassed him at every turn. This victory marked another milestone in Inoue's already historic career. With the win, he became a 4-division world champion, a feat that placed him in rarefied air. But it wasn't just about collecting belts. Inoue sent a message to the entire boxing world. The weight jump hadn't slowed him down. It had unlocked another level of his game. Fighters across the super bantamweight and featherweight divisions now had a problem they couldn't ignore. While Inoue's legend grew, Fulton had to go back to the drawing board. The loss forced him to reevaluate everything. He changed trainers and overhauled his strategy. To his credit, Fulton didn't disappear. He clawed his way back into relevance, eventually beating Brandon Figueroa to win the WBC featherweight title. That win proved that Fulton was still elite, but it also emphasized just how far ahead Inoue truly was. Even among champions, Inoue stood apart, levels above the rest. What made this win so special wasn't just the stakes or the belts, it was the narrative. Inoue had stepped into hostile territory against an undefeated champion, a fighter who genuinely believed he would walk through him. The pressure was immense, the expectations were high, and yet Inoue performed as if he were fighting an overmatched contender. He didn't just win, he dominated. And in doing so, he silenced every doubt that had ever been cast upon him. Boxing is a sport where hype often outweighs substance. Many fighters ride waves of promotion and charisma without truly proving themselves. Inoue, however, has done the opposite. He's let his fists do the talking, and each win has added to a legacy that continues to grow. Against Fulton, he didn't just take a belt. He took the heart of a man who believed he was invincible. The Japanese phenom showed that greatness isn't about size, nationality, or perception. It's about skill, discipline, and the willingness to face the best without fear. While others carefully craft their legacies by cherry-picking opponents, Inoue seeks out danger and disarms it with grace and violence. His fight against Fulton will be remembered not just for the result but for what it symbolized, the rise of a generational talent who refuses to be bound by limits. As Inoue continues his journey through the weight classes, questions will arise about how far he can go. Can he dominate at featherweight? Will his power translate even further? Based on what we saw on that July night, the answers might already be clear. Wherever he goes, the monster will be a force to be reckoned with, and for Stephen Fulton, the memory of that night in Tokyo will likely never fade. Not because of the pain or the loss, but because it was the moment he met a fighter unlike any he had ever encountered. A man who shattered myths, destroyed predictions, and did so with terrifying precision. It was a lesson, harsh, unforgettable, and necessary. In the ring, bravado means nothing if it isn't backed up. And against Naoya Inoue, there's no room for illusions. The monster doesn't just fight, he rewrites expectations. And on that night in Japan, he wrote another chapter in a legacy that's becoming one of the greatest stories boxing has ever known.